Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. Glad you're able to join us tonight. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Or if you watch this in the future, thank you for being here. While you're in our chat, if I'll have a presentation and have respect for families, mods, and each other. Tonight, we're going to be looking at a case that is absolutely unbelievable of recent case development of a homicide up in New York of the United Healthcare CEO. And this is the flyer that was presented by law enforcement to be put out to the public with the contact information. And if you have any information regarding this case, absolutely make sure that law enforcement has that. As up until just prior to the show, I had checked on updates to see if any arrests had been made. Still a manhunt going on. And so I wanted to make sure that there would be a contact number out there if you recognize the individual in these images, photos, or this show, or if you're in some way related to this individual. Absolutely make sure that the proper authorities are aware of the situation and how you might know this individual. But on Wednesday, December the 4th, 2024, approximately 6:40 a.m. in front of the Hilton Hotel located at 1335 Avenue of the Americas in the confines of the 18th precinct in Manhattan, the perpetrator, pictured above, discharged a firearm, striking the 50-year-old male victim in the chest and causing his demise. And the phone number to call is 1-800-577-8477 or tips. Thank you for that law enforcement. From my understanding, they posted this throughout the communities, and they also have they're using the technologies as far as texting and broadcasting this information across the country to ensure that while this individual who is responsible for this that came into their city, rented a hotel, which we'll be getting into some of the details, and is mobile. And he could be anywhere in this country or surrounding countries. And through the texting and the abilities of the social media, how long will this manhunt last, especially with the images out there of, and will he be identified? Probably so in several different ways, because when we look at the evidence of what was left behind and how well he may have attempted to cover his tracks or not, for the fact that certain steps were taken that will lead you to believe that he really doesn't care. And that the mask that he was wearing at the time of the shooting could have just been due to the cold. But we'll see where it goes as the days proceed and as they search for him. Do I think law enforcement has a pretty good idea who he is? Probably so. Because of everything that's, that from the reporting of checking himself in, even with a false ID, there's certain digital footprint that you will leave from the cell phone that was recovered, purchases at stores, the recovered water bottle, things, the wrapper, and who was he talking to just prior to the shooting on that phone that was recovered. There's a lot of things going on with this case that will absolutely lead to him being at some point apprehended. But we'll get into that and let's look at it. Get back up there. Hit the wrong button. Of course, it's the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. who was up in New York about to have was going to be a speaker at a conference. And just prior to attending that conference and making a speech, while he was approaching the hotel conference center, he was gunned down, sadly. Although right now our society is at the point, and it's a very emotional thing that they're doing about looking at it from the standpoint of his impact in the medical profession, which we're not going to be getting into the politics of that, because there's, we have the unlawful homicide of an individual that no matter what the other cause or reasoning or what this individual who has conducted this activity that led to his homicide, there's other ways to our system will work and try to right any wrongs. Homicide is not the way or the route to go. But we'll, of course, there'll be a lot of things out there that you read in the papers now and on Reddit of how contentious his life and his business was. But like I said, none of that, this isn't how we settle issues in America. We don't go into the streets and just gun down individuals for whatever their job title is. There's other processes that our system allows for us to right any wrong that ourselves or our families may suffer. But anyway, all right, let's get into it. This is an image that was clipped showing the individual coming into the image from behind the victim, and you'll see while I won't cover every shot that was fired from this weapon platform, we'll be discussing this weapon because it's a very unique weapon if it's the one that is being reported in the articles. Early on, they were talking about the firearm and the platform would be, whenever you hear me say platform, it's also I'm referencing to a firearm or a weapon. But this platform they chose, if it is the kind that they said is very unique, and we have an image and we'll be discussing the functioning of this weapon. Very unique, expensive platform. And also it's not something that you would expect the average individual to bring to this type of ambush. It's absolutely, like I said, it's strange in so many ways. But of course, this is our individual that we have that law enforcement is releasing the images of. Now, when I look at these images, I'm looking at it from not so much, of course, always we look, see if we know the individual, but we also look at from the CSI world, and that's what I want to tell y'all about. When I see this individual, of course, they're going to be looking at every aspect of him, from his build, his clothing style, the expense of what is the expense of his attire, and hair color from his eyebrows and things, and looking at his hands. We have an individual that during the shooting, of course, was wearing gloves, but right here we have an individual that has no gloves on. You can see his skin, and from the CSI world, these are the type of images that we like to see, and we'll be getting into that in a little bit. I did some testing today to reinforce how law enforcement analyzes these photos and what possible directions that we might be able to recover evidence from tracking him through our massive camera systems that we have spread out throughout the cities and our communities, businesses, whether it be a simple coffee shop, a hotel, to a gas station, to a bank camera, especially in New York City. They would be able to track this individual rather easily, and they did so, I would expect. And but my biggest thing when I saw this image here and I saw no gloves on, my heart leaped, and I said, "All right, let's see some more images." And then, of course, we have this where another image that was released by the NYPD, and we have this once again. Pretty good, clear images. It's not what we normally would that we have just recently experienced as far as with the Delphi homicides, where we had something that was pixelated or otherwise. Here we have absolutely great detail, and we have an individual, young man, that has a great smile, and someone will absolutely recognize that smile. They will recognize this individual. I'm pretty sure they probably already have no telling how many tips have come in as far as to his identity at this time, or I'm assuming or speculating on that. But then we find out that there was some writings on some of the bullets that might, or the shell casings, spent and unspent, that were located at the scene. And how unique is that? And how targeting could that be? That we have an individual that was spotted making a phone call a few minutes prior to this homicide, waiting in a certain area for and letting others pass. But when this individual, as far as our victim, Brian Thompson, came by, he stepped in behind him and fired fatal shots. And the words that were inscribed on the casings are, of course, deny, depose, and defend, which is, I had never heard of this before. If y'all know of other cases where this has occurred, absolutely let it send me a link, because it's amazing. But you go onto YouTube and you type that in, and of course there's people that also have researched it, looked at it, and come and analyzed it, and came to the understanding that it's very similar to a book that was written by Jay Feynman, that's named Delay, Deny, Defend. And then the caption under that on the cover of that book says, "Why insurance companies don't pay claims and what can you do about it?" And of course, our victim is the CEO of United Healthcare, and has worked for that company for an extended period of time. And is there a possibility that that title, these words, and this being coincidence? I think I give that a very low possibility. I think it's absolutely connected, and will lead to what is that connection? Is it someone that has hired some individual, or is it someone that was affected by within their own family? Don't know that yet. Law enforcement probably has a better understanding of that than we do. And of course, while we may have multiple people that are involved in this, for the fact that we have an individual that is at one location and he makes a phone call, do we have that? We have other individuals that are keeping our victim, our future victim, under surveillance, and relays that information to this individual. Don't know. We don't know how complex it is or what the possibilities are, but law enforcement will be covering all of that. Before I get much further, let's get into chat before we go, and then we'll come back to this. Hello, Marion. Good to see you. See if I can get this thing going. All right. Well, I'll try to get it going. There we go. Olivia, too. If you have any questions about anything, absolutely throw them in the chat, and I will answer them best I can. Joe Moser, good to see you. Olivia, too. Sharon Edwards. It's cold up there in Indiana. Let's see here. Big Bird 420. Hello. Mama Sin, good to see you. Nightbox here, as was last night during our members only, which normally doesn't happen. Does anyone think these two pictures look like two different people? Like one is a female and the other is a male. Actually, my son-in-law earlier tonight, we were just I text my daughter, and he made that comment that the individual had certain feminine characteristics. I don't know if it was from a different camera and focal lengths and things within cameras. Sometimes you can have, whereas one of them does look like it's a little bit different nose, but from a totally different angle, and from left side where he's smiling, he has a very angular face and very sharp nose. But I think they're if it was from two individuals, law enforcement would have stated that. They're looking for one individual, and so it will be, in my opinion, it's just the camera angle only that caused it to look kind of a difference. Josh DePosh, good to see you. Al on the Prowl, good to see you also. Yes, Josh DePosh, yes, I agree with you that the facial features and witnesses at the hostel make it think that it is the same person. And like I said, if it was possibility of two individuals, and like I said, I don't know which two cameras it is, law enforcement will have notified that there's more than one individual, and we don't have that. So I think it's just the camera angle and possibly a different camera. Boston Christian, good to see you. Karen Langston, good to see you. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mr. Steve. And also, Karen, I want to thank you for your PayPal that you made last night. There's your blue light. Appreciate your support. They may have his name now. I know that he checked into a hostel under a fake ID. Of course, they would be processing that hotel room, and I think there was a connection to a gun shop up in Connecticut where he purchased, or where a firearm that is probably the one used in this homicide was purchased, and it would be linked to him. Now, did he use another fake name up there? But it's possible that since I've came on, or in the last hour, that they have his name. Let me look right quick and see if there's before, because if it is there, we'll go ahead and put that out there also. Let's see. I know that all the names that they may have that, but I don't see anything in the last hour that says that they've released the name. In what 10 minutes ago, I'm looking at. No, I don't see it there. No. So while law enforcement may have that name, they haven't posted it out there that I can find currently. Of course, after shooting, everything as far as the premeditation, the targeting appears to be that there was a plan of action for this individual to escape the area. Everything was pre-set up, staged, and now law enforcement would be looking at, now that they know where he was staying at, and they will be able to track his movements through all the cameras, of course, and how he staged and his movements prior to the shooting, and then of course getting into the park and disappearing within the crowd. And it's just like I said, when you're doing the collection of evidence and data, and what we can look at as far as with the camera systems, and they're out there trying to gather all this data. Plus, we have tracking systems that with the e-bike that he used, that they're going to be able to look at all the areas and check those locations. And what will they be doing with the other possibilities of securing cell phones that would be linked to those areas? Because if we have co-conspirators, co-offenders, they'll be looking for a network of individuals, possibly working together to commit this crime. And did he have help? There is a great possibility of that. All right, let's see what else we got here. But in addition to the shell casings of both spent and unspent, they said that they recovered a water bottle and a candy or power bar wrapper in the area where the shooter was waiting. And I think they have it linked to a purchase that he had made just prior at a local coffee shop or something. And so they will be processing all that evidence. And we know with the DNA that possibilities now and how they can secure and do the genealogical searches that yes, I believe this individual would be identified, just don't know what time frame. But there's a lot of evidence in this case that may not be developed yet, but it will be in the coming days and rather quickly, I would expect. And let's see here. But they say he's around 6'1", tall, thin build, and we can see it. And in this description, at this point, they said a black jacket, black hat, black ski mask, and black backpack. And when they were talking about that, is this a low lit area that is because what you see in the images and from this article printing here, at what point was that information released? But anyway, from the shooting itself, it was a lighter jacket. And in this article, it says at point blank range. And while it was relatively close range, from 5 yards or so, that it not anything that we would think of as easily to say that, oh, this is a professional hit. There's a lot of things about it that says no, professionals doing this. And I've only met and spoke to one hitman in my career, but of course I'm in Georgia. But he was, and of course it's not like that you have a profession of hitmen out there. Now people do get hired to commit homicides. Happens all the time, but it's not from a website of what we see in the movies of all these skilled hitmen traveling the country that work for whatever pay they can get. That's just something that is not based in reality. Now, are there certain trained individuals out there that work for governments and otherwise that and across and around the world? Absolutely. Now, when you're talking about that type of interactions from professional shooters through the military or certain 3-letter agencies within our own government and from other governments across the country, across the world, yes, they exist in those worlds. But for the private sector, no, it's not something that you would that is everywhere. It just doesn't exist. You do have in some crime families, but as far as individual just wanting to call up somebody to do this, nah, not happening. But he checked into an Upper West Side hostel using a New Jersey license that wasn't his, and this is according to police sources that have relayed this information to ABC News. And this is one of the pictures. Look closely if you know anyone that looks like that. And then, of course, like I said, this is a picture of the smile. And I want you to pay close attention to this picture and the previous picture. Earlier, I had mentioned that he was wearing, he didn't have any gloves on. And then we see this picture where he doesn't have any gloves on and his hands are resting somewhere. And of course, if he had a motel room and he had checked in and out, Of course, those areas will be processed. But even if they hadn't, let's say that he hadn't, that he was able to secure his room, sweep it for DNA, sweep it for all fingerprints. He took every precaution he could to not leave fingerprints or any DNA. From CSI world, we look at these pictures and where he's at and what he's doing, and just with having a naked hand, where is it placed? And we see in this second image of him standing there, of what do we have in front of him? A countertop. And this is something that is quite often done at anytime you have a stop and rob station, service station, from the doors to the countertops. Wherever we look and we see an individual standing, we go out and process those areas for the fact that he's resting his thumb, palm, fingertips on that countertop. And you'll say, well, a lot of people do that. Yes, they do. And how many fingerprints and palm prints are there? Doesn't matter. Law enforcement, CSI world, we address those issues. We look at this, we analyze it, and we go there. And hopefully they process this scene in this area for fingerprints. And the reason I bring this point up, that even if he took every precaution and they have nothing else, that this is another possibility as far as what law enforcement should cover, is that they would process those areas. And I did a test earlier today that we'll get into in a few minutes, and we'll address those issues, and I'll show you how easy it is to transfer fingerprints to those areas. But now we're going to look at the firearm platform that possibly was used in this attack. And law enforcement or in the news briefing I watched, they were saying it was this Station 6 9mm platform. It's a strange weapon platform. It is a bolt action designed. It's not a semi-auto firing firearm, which means that every time you press the trigger, the gun functions, fires a shot, cycles, and reloads another bullet from the magazine into the chamber, and you simply press the trigger again, unless there's a failure to feed or failure to fire, where you would have to rack it by hand. In the early stages of the news releases, law enforcement was saying that the gun was malfunctioning. Well, that's a different platform than what this firearm is. And they said that this gun may have been purchased in Connecticut. And this type of firearm here is a bolt action pistol that has a suppressor / silencer on it. And it has to be manipulated between each shot. Whereas it is a lock bolt system that when you press the trigger, there's no slide action. There's nothing that will automatically eject a round and automatically put another round into the chamber. It's something that you have to manipulate manually with your hands. There's a process to it. And law enforcement, from that one news briefing I saw, they have connected that this may possibly be the type of firearm that was used. I watched some YouTube videos on it. And if you go and watch those videos, all you do is go to YouTube, type in Station 6 9mm, and they will pop in. It's a very expensive platform. Whereas a lot of your semi-autos, that if you just took a run-of-the-mill individual off the street that was just looking for a cheap firearm or cheap weapon, there's a lot of firearms out there that are 9mm that would have accomplished the same mission if this individual was truly targeting, and for a far less price. But this price here, like I said, this gun is everywhere I looked at online across the country, from $1,700 to $1,900 suggested, and quite an amazing platform. And it is, if it's used with certain suppressor, it is almost silent. It's almost like if you went out, I watched one of the YouTube channels, and if you broke a stick out in the forest, that's about all it was. It's like breaking a broom handle. Extremely effective as far as not allowing a noise um, effect, as far as if you're shooting a firearm on a crowded street and there's some officer walking the beat or sitting down 2 blocks away, they're not going to know that there was any shots fired. Is that the reason this platform was chosen? Don't know. That's within the head of the offender and any co-offenders that might be involved. But like I said, look that up, go out, watch some of those videos. Absolutely amazing. But anyway, as I was talking earlier, one of the things that we look for is if we have an offender out there, and once we identify that he's traveling through whatever his environment is, whatever he touches, we go and we process. I went and put my hand on top of a counter, and from that, I processed it. These are the fingerprints prior to being lifted from the surface. This is, I just documented and put a scale in there so that if it was ever said that if you process in a crime scene, you'll have a scale, it's always good practice to do so. And then, of course, this is a close-up of one of those fingerprints that I made from touching a countertop. And of course, this is best case scenario. Is there any guaranteed that from the offender placing his hand on that countertop that you would acquire such a clear fingerprint? Don't know. But that's some of the things that we process and look at. So I'm sure they're going to have some type of DNA, either from where he touched, because even when you process the fingerprints, even if you don't get a clear detail, if you use proper powders, you can still possibly retrieve a DNA profile of that individual. And so from his bottles and the phone and the wrappers and his hotel room, his check-in, even the monies that he may have used, all those things can be processed. And so there will be a forensic trail that law enforcement, and there would be massive things to be processed as far as trying to link him to each of these areas. And I think it's just a matter of time, and they may have already know who he is. All right. But like I said, I just wanted to cover some of those things, and there's a lot to cover on this stuff. Mustang 65, good to see. If this was the 1980s, you say it was a mob related. What was that? Jimmy Hoffa. But that was even pre 80s. Lydia, good to see. Melissa Wildcard, good to see you. Just going down through here checking to see if we got any questions. Molly, hello. Hope you're feeling better. Glad to see you. T. Kinsella, good to see you also. Leanne, hello. How are you? If you, like I said, if you got any questions, anything, throw them in there. Boston Christian. Cryptic, good question. Says, Steve, do you think the hitman is an amateur or a professional? Absolutely. I don't think he's professional. Professional marksman. We don't, from, let's say, 15 feet in, 5-6 yards, you're not going to have someone that's highly skilled, highly trained, and highly proficient with a firearm, with or without sights, missing, firing at least 3 rounds, striking the victim once in the back and once in the leg. That's not going to happen. Those distances wouldn't have been those distances. If it was that he walked right up, pushed him into the wall, fired 3 rounds, 2 in the chest, 1 in the head, then I might go with the argument that this is an individual that had the training and the understanding of absolutely making sure that the individual would pass. While the victim did succumb to his injuries, there was no guarantee of that. But it is, so I think it's more of an amateur due to all the mistakes that were made pre um, um, crime and even post crime, you know, and even the choice of the area of where the death occurred. While it is possible that someone may have promoted or hired him to be executed in such a manner in public to send a message, um, a lot of the people that are hired to commit homicides are not of the professional grade, and it could still be that while he is a hired individual, he's not a professional shooter that is extremely efficient with a firearm. Although he did use good, he able to fire the weapon at least 3 times, from my understanding of the evidence. But there was also some unspent rounds that were left at the scene, which does not lead me to believe um, that that individual um, uh, acted as a professional. The only reason I could see that he would want to leave rounds behind, and I'm saying this from the standpoint that, okay, we have each of the rounds, or we have several of the rounds marked, and we want those rounds left there. And we have loaded the magazine, and was there etching on each of the casings? Don't know. And was he to eject those rounds to send that message, regardless if the weapon functioned or not? And was he functioning that weapon to make and ensure that all the carvings were left there? I don't know. That's going to have to be within the mind of the offender of why that happened. Um, because, like I said, the platform that was chosen is not a great platform. It's a boat action. Um, it was effective, but it's not something I would expect a professional to do. And would he, if he was hired, or if he did want to make sure that that message was sent, um, and he had to leave those casings for whatever within his mindset, and that the act of ejecting the unspent rounds was a necessity for the message to be completed, that's a possibility. All right. T. Kinsella. Wonder if they will catch the assassin. I think they will identify him rather quickly. Catching him may be another matter, for the fact that we're talking about a huge country, and but once they identify who he is, they will be able to start looking at the offender's profile, uh, looking at his financials, preparations of movements, purchases, cash, or whatever, that okay, if he made a large cash withdrawal from his normal um, checking, banking, or, there's going to be a lot of things that, as far as uh, a financial audit that will occur through banks, um, that is easily acquired by law enforcement through the court systems. So I do think that they will be able to identify him, and whatever path of escape that he has. Um, how well organized is he? We just don't know yet. I do. He is an organized offender. I just don't know how well organized post crime he is. Molly says, have they released what the bad guy wrote on the shell casing? It's being reported that these words, deny, depose, and defend, were carved into the live rounds and shell casings. And that's how come I said that he may had he may had the necessity to make sure that each of these things were left at the scene, and he had to work the actions in more than just what was fired to ensure that that message was left there. But it is very close to the title of this book regarding insurance companies. And like I said, the likelihood of that being not, linked in some manner is very low, in my opinion. Anna Lizette, bridge guy with a backpack. But yes, but he also, I think, like I said, anyone that knew that individual is going to recognize that profile there, that face. Now, we may all think of people that he's similar to. Me, I mean, I looked and I thought about, because a lot of my life and my career, both in law enforcement and the firearm industry, I dealt with a lot of people with firearms. I shot a lot of different guns, trained with a lot of different individuals. And of course, I looked at this individual. He's quite a bit younger than me. So, you never know where these individuals may pop up at. Hello, Ben. Yes, and in some ways, the suspect appears female, or there are some weird enhanced photos online. Probably a little bit of both. My son-in-law said the same thing when he looked at these images, and that it was some feminine characteristics. But if you go online and you search up this author's name and look up that book, you'll see the book cover, and it says why insurance companies don't pay claims and what you can do about it. And like I said, it's uncanny that we have deny in those and defend, but we have depose. Now, how accurate is the article, or how accurate was the source, and what will the true words be at the end of the day? I mean, mistakes happen. And Molly, you're exactly right. Like I said, there's other ways to settle disputes, and regardless of what we think about the insurance company or companies out there, I don't think there's anyone across the country that hasn't at some point been affected, maybe negatively, by insurance company, and not seeing or every one of us are guilty of thinking that, well, I paid insurance and I didn't get back what I thought I should have. I guess we're all guilty of that, but we don't all go out and pick up weapons and go out and commit such horrible crimes. It's not it's not rational. Timmy's Legacy, good to see you, Barbara. Olivia too. $10 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate your support. Let's see. Thank you, Barbara. Very kind of you. Molly says that's a pretty recognizable face and smile. I mean, this individual, like I said, someone's going to recognize that smile from what, 2 weeks ago, sitting around the table at Thanksgiving. This individual has a family. He has a mother, father, maybe siblings, maybe children, wives, girlfriends. Someone knows that individual, and law enforcement, of course, and they would be speaking with anyone that had contacted him and spoke to him, every salesperson that he has spoke with, trying to figure out everything about the language used, verbiage, um, uh, if he had an accent, and all those things would be put into the case file. Because right now they don't know. In the early days or the early hours, because it's really not been that long. We're only looking at a little over a day. Um, we're what 36 hours going on 48 into this thing, and that this since the homicide, and so in those first few hours they'd be trying, as soon as they found out who had contact with them, who was on duty, they'd be interviewing and trying to see um, uh, if anyone had an idea of what was the conversation, what did y'all discuss, what was he smiling about, what was the course of action, and uh, what did you think of the individual? Where do you think he was from? All that stuff is asked by law enforcement. Farq, good to see you. Boston Christians has done some research here. Sounds like they lost it totally. Could be a death or suffering of a loved one. Absolutely. UHC has had many unneeded cuts in medical policies, and they've made around 100 billion by third quarter of 2024. But don't quote. Yeah, uh, unbelievable. They have a lot of money. Thank you, Marion Tate. Very nice of you. Anna says the features are very fine and delicate, similar to female. On the other hand, maybe the image are heavily enhanced, like the Delphi Bridge guy. It could be. There could be some enhancement, or hopefully, um, um, you know, we don't get any sketches. That'd be the worst thing in the world ever happened. But uh, uh, could there be some, uh, like you said, enhancement? Possible, but not to the point that we have people that saw him and spoke to him in these images during these times, and they would address any of those issues that now, is this the guy? Um, when we run it through whatever filters, does it change it to the point that this isn't the guy? And I don't think law enforcement, or at least I hope law enforcement, wouldn't make that mistake. Hello, Paula. Gibbo. The victim was in town for a known conference related to UHC and was walking to the hotel meeting from his hotel. Probably not hard to find him, but still, speaking and setting up and the putting him under surveillance, understanding while you may know the time of the conference, and you'd have to know certain details of what his day was going to be, and um, could they be others involved, that if this isn't where he goes, at what time he coming there? Because there was um, a sort of organization to these movements. We get at a specific area at a certain time. Phone activity, from my understanding of the reporting, if true, occurred just minutes before the victim shows up. Um, the individual is waiting in a specific spot, and this isn't a daily routine. This is a one-time thing of this individual. So certain things were anticipated, and that takes planning. That takes organization. That if he is the intended target, there's some organization here that we're going to know certain movements will occur um, for this conference, and that I see a lot of planning, and we have to cover the bases. And could there be more than one individual? And just speculating at this time, I think yes. I watched a video earlier today of where uh, there is a individual out there that uses a veterinary firearm, and they are suppressed so that they don't scare animals. And there's a creator out there that he shot a veterinary firearm versus this platform that they're talking about as far as being the. Uh, let me go to that picture. The B&T Station 6 9mm. Um, the degree of decibels between the two um, is probably 10 times more effective with this platform. While the other one is clearly a gunshot, this one here is, you would think, is someone stepping on a stick in the woods, or you picking up a thick branch and just snapping it. Very low and no clearable or clear sound of a gunshot. I was very impressed by the video that I watched. But yes, your veterinary guns, a lot of those are suppressed slash silenced so that they don't startle or create havoc whenever animals have to be put down in that manner. But this here was, like I said, 10 times more efficient as far as suppressing the sound. Sonia Torres says they don't look like the same person. The chins are totally different. And like I said, it could be just the angle and if there was any type of filter applied. But if there was two of them out there, I would expect that law enforcement would clarify that issue if they have pictures of at least two. I thought I heard in one of the reportings, though, that this individual was at the hostel and there was other individuals staying there. I don't know if it was associated with that room or not, but everyone that's within that hostel and all his movements and any meetings that he would have had, they absolutely would be checking into each of these individuals' backgrounds. There will be profiles completed on everybody that has contact with that hostel and any outgoing calls and incoming, and they have the phone. So there's a lot of possibilities out there. I don't know if the e-bike is found yet or not. I know that they're trying to do the geolocation on it. Glad you're here, Sonia. Glad you're here. Um, Back strap are different. One black, other beige. Let me go back and look. Yeah, I don't know if it's flipped over or not because some back straps, and I don't know, or have opposing colors on one side versus the other. I don't know if that's what's there or not. Good observation, though. Yes, Kay. Absolutely amazing that this individual did that about carving those. And what process did he do that with? If he handled that bullet with just his fingers, of course, we have everything from possibility of DNA to fingerprints on those bullets if he wasn't wearing gloves. But if he took the precautions of that, they'll still process them for him, and just don't know. But just carving that on there means that, and knowing that those casings were going to be left behind, and that's the thing. Did he ensure that they were all be racked through the firearm to leave that message? How do you write on such a small item? You know, they make those little pen engravers that you can buy. I don't know if that's the way it was, or if he just used some type of fine hardened tip. But there's all different types of devices and of metal work that you can buy for intricate details of from jewelry to even for firearm industry. That some of the scroll work done on some of these firearms, it takes that hardened metal, them hardened tips. There's some people out there, just like the people that do the trophies and things, that they're able to carve those initials, names, do the scroll work. And I just don't know how masterful the carvings on these rounds were. Curtis says, I see the feminine like look too, almost like a transgender male or some other form of LGBTQ. It may just be the camera or angle or other things. Absolutely. And I agree. Someone had dinner with him a couple weeks ago, Curtis, and I agree that someone will be. Molly's on the same track as me about the engraving tools. Al on the Prowl says, look Italian. As far as mafia. Oh, me. CJ, good to see you. And yes, you know, that's one of the things you have to look at is that um, uh, why were those terms selected? Deny, depose, and defend. And yeah. Josh Saposh says, Steve, you think with this info, the person was there's a good chance it's a disgruntled employee or someone connected to the company or insurance industry? Um, there could be in several different ways what those connections are. Um, could it be, uh, regardless, it's someone either that uh, there is a relationship with the company, either by this individual who committed the crime or by someone that put him on the path to do this deed for them. Um, and This grown employee could be, I mean, you know, there's so many different reasons of why people um, uh, could commit such acts. None of them reasonable, but there's, you know, within their minds, you know, we can't try to think like they, you know, that this is the way to handle this situation, that there's no other way, no other possibility. Um, you know, you're talking about an individual that is deranged in their thought process just for the fact of walking up, ambushing someone, and committing a homicide. Marion Tate says, do you think having cameras on intersections coming in and out of towns will help the investigation no matter if the car was stolen or no plates on it? Yes, we saw that with the Idaho 4 case with Koberger, that once a vehicle was identified, but we're talking about a metropolis, whereas there's not a, I don't know how many people have driven within New York City. I've drove up there one time. I've never been in any such, I mean, it's just chaos. I'd rather be in a rat race or a stampede of cattle than try to drive those streets. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. Um, I've never seen anything about like the madness of the traffic in New York. Unbelievable. Um, so, how and where was he able to use um, the metros or whatever type of trains that he used to go from one part to the other? I'm sure he had a system of movement within the cities to get him to the outskirts. Oh, Lori. Josh Saposh says that he's been from the Hilton to Central Park when he was up at New York City. Are all Georgia hitmen members of the Cornbread Mafia? Inquiring minds want to know. There used to be something that was referred to as the Southern Mafia, um, and were there certain individuals, um, and was there certain homicides committed that were uh, always put off to that they were the ones behind? Yes, there was. I remember over the years of several individuals that um, were found deceased, um, and bodies disposed of in our jurisdictions and surrounding jurisdictions. And so, was there a Southern Mafia at one time? Yes. It was organized crime. Maybe not the mafia, but it was organized crime in the South. So he shot victim, fled on foot, and later hopped on a bike. I think some of this was preset, pre-staged. I think from the way that some of the articles read and references made that everything was set up so that he could be able to go from one location to another. There's Ruckus. Hello, how are you, sir? You've always called them stop and robs? Yes. Um, does UHC keep complete records on the deceased and if their spouse or parents, siblings under their covers are right? I would suspect that yes, there's all type of in the insurance world of documentations, but how many deaths occur in this country a year, and not only that, but medical aid. Uh, Ruckus says stovepipe, uh, tap, rack, and shoot. That's some of the law enforcement training stuff. But like I said, this platform, if it's accurate of what they say that platform is, and it is a strange platform. Um, I have never fired this platform. I had heard of them, but I've never fired it. Kibble says, "Oh my God, we have matching fingerprints." Oh me. Oh, um, I could this weapon be used as a veterinary weapon? Absolutely. Um, uh, would they check that out? I think, like I said, they already have a connection that this weapon may have been purchased in Connecticut. Is that something they found from the hotel or hostel that he stayed at? I don't know, but they seem to think that they have a location in Connecticut where the platform was purchased at. Anna says that she had a feeling that it was more domestic than business related. Just a feeling for what it's worth, maybe not much. Yeah, until the final reasoning of why he was targeted is known, as much reason to think that as anything. True crime with his behavior, how likely do you think he did permanent self-harm afterwards and hasn't been found yet? That is a possibility also. That this is a one and out. But if that's the case, why leave? If you have that strong of an urge to leave a message, you know, you would think that, because I've seen where that has occurred, that within families and things, whereas we take care of the what they consider their nemesis, or to get revenge for whatever wrong they think they have, and then they take their own. I've seen that, but normally they're there. They don't leave. But he could have. And even do it by cop. Yeah, that's this platform right here that T. Kinsella is speaking of. Anna says, seems deficit, but they haven't caught him yet. Maybe he's smarter than he appears. I think he's highly organized. I really do. I wouldn't have chose that weapon platform, but I think he's organized. And he's most certainly not the greatest marksman in the world to shoot someone in the calf. But then again, if it plays out that there's a link that there was some type of injury or something to the, and he may be the greatest marksman in the world if it was part of the plan. Who knows at this time? Black Widow, member for 14 months. Thank you. The images are so clear, someone's got to recognize him. Yes, absolutely. I don't see anyone not being able to recognize him if that is as accurate and detailed as what it is, as long as LE didn't mess it up with some type of filter. Yeah, if someone paid them to do this, they got robbed. Blackwood. That's funny. Oh, Todd, Odinus. Very possible. There's a reason that he had that backpack on, you know, and more than likely, you're probably more accurate than on that detail than most. Todd and Anna talking about the Odinus and the runes. Y'all are not right. Olivia says that the backpack had one brown and one black strap. I didn't know if it was that or if it was just flipped over, because in my world, I have a lot of different straps and they're different colors on different sides. Some of them are camo on one side and maybe brown or black on the other side. And I didn't know if that was. Molly says he reminds me of some movie star. Reno says, give me Brian Koberger vibes. Black Widow says, just a pretty guy like Jake. Hey, everyone, have they found out who this guy is? Law enforcement may have a good idea who he is, but just prior to the show or even during the show, I looked up and there was no updates as far as name yet. Miss CRNs. Looked like a woman except a mustache trying to grow. Do you think this person could be wearing a disguise on his face? Had to have known he was on security visuals practically everywhere in New York City. I think he just didn't care. Um, I think that, and you know, could that be just something as far as mentally? Um, uh, do I think that he thinks that he will eventually get caught? Yes, and just didn't care. Hannah said, "We'll probably find out he's just a speck on the background with no face, like bridge guy." Mm-mm-mm. Dandy Linus, hello. Justice Jane, hello. And this is a key point, Todd, and that's what I mentioned earlier, that this isn't something that would have been known to a lot of people at what time, and was he under surveillance prior to leaving his hotel and arriving at this hotel? And is that anything related as far as within that hotel? And law enforcement would be checking on any possibilities of who would have had the ability to put this individual from the moment he woke up. Could he be under some type of surveillance? And someone saw him leave. A phone call was made, and plan A, B, or C was put into action. Just don't know, but that's extremely possible. Mark says this feels like it stays to look like a different motive. Activist, this guy can afford a dentist, and his backpack was not cheap, not a pro hit either, maybe personal in a different way. Very possible. Will the CEO's wife be a potential person of interest suspect? Yes, they'll be checking into everyone. That's part of law enforcement's um, a way of investigating all types of crimes. You look to those closest and work your way out, and you do profiles on everyone, financials, and you learn everything about them and what the motives could be, because there's a lot of motives out there. Anna says, did that company just have a board meeting? I don't know. I don't know. I know there's a lot of meetings throughout the years, and or throughout the year especially, and this time of year as we near the end of the year, with all different type of disclosures and oversight by those who regulate the stock exchange. So I'm sure there's board hearings quite often. Um, there is such a thing as activist shareholders, many times troublemakers. By the way, I'm using the New York Stock Exchange code for the company because I've discussed the stock. Okay. I wonder if it was a disgruntled investor since he insider traded and dumped stock. Don't know. I had seen where that reference was made to him in some articles today about some of the insider trading. How in the world could someone buy a weapon like that? Well, like I said, it's not what I would choose to go into this type of situation. Uh, Now, if you were trying to assassinate, execute, commit a homicide in silence in a darkened hotel room and not alert adjoining rooms, this is the perfect platform. But out in the middle of the street, um, and where someone could run if you missed, and it's not the perfect weapon. But if you're trying to do it in certain areas, out of sight, out of mind, this platform is perfect. So um, I don't know what the reasoning was for the selection of that. Yeah, fingerprints on Starbucks door counter. Yeah, law enforcement would process that, and that's how come today I didn't have anything. I got caught up in for all my chores, and I went up there and, like I said, placed my hand on a countertop, lifted the fingerprints. That's what we look for, is those hand placements, countertops, and go and do it. Evidence can be found anywhere. Yeah, he would have had to have whoever purchased the firearm would have also had to purchase um, a at some point a tax stamp. Reno says New York City is a good place to hide in because of all the people. But at the same time, it's the worst place to hide for the same reason. Yeah, they have camera systems. Mark says that the e-bike is a masterstroke for downtown Manhattan. Mark says the Memphis Mafia is legendary. I've heard of the Memphis Mafia. I know Southern Mafia was. I think there were some all the way out to Louisiana and Georgia connections. I believe too. I don't know if the backpack was found. Yes, it's getting extremely cold tonight. I've got to go turn the water on so that all my water pipes don't freeze on a well system. P. Kinsella says that the backpack was fancy, cost 3,300. And like I said, the platform, the weapon platform is 1,700 bucks. There's far cheaper firearms to be purchased. Not as silent, but there's far cheaper. Yes, and this is another thing that yes, you have to have on for fingerprints on suppressed firearms and tax stamps. Um, so they are tracking those down. Marion Tate says that looks like he's flirting with somebody the way he's smiling. Very possible. Glitter forever. Good to see you. Junior Johnson says, "Do you really have a cell phone?" I think it's been reported a time or two that it was a burner phone. Mark says that he thinks that he could be associated with the insurance company or recent laid off. It would explain how he can know the CEO's schedule. Knowing the CEO's schedule is one thing, but knowing his morning rituals, and especially even for this day, like I said, they may have been more involved, and we have plan A, B, and C. And that's what I'm saying is that we normally wouldn't think that, and that's the only reason I spoke of that earlier, that just to cover up for the fact that while he was shot in the leg, that is not what we normally see as far as a trained individual um, uh, that we see in these government operations, unsanctioned or sanctioned um, by true professionals or certain um, countries that go out there and um, do that type of work, which it does occur. We see it occasionally in the news of where certain individuals for their past behaviors were hunted down and for their crimes, war crimes or other. And but those individuals you normally don't see uh, shots in the leg. And the accuracy, because I think at least 3 rounds were fired, only 2 struck the victim, and one of those was in the leg. So um, I think it was just inaccuracy versus intentionally shot in the leg. But then again, watch me be absolutely wrong. I'm hoping he is caught tonight also with Olivia. Um, I slowed it down and watched it. It looked like he was taking while he was walking off. He took a picture, but nobody's talking about. I haven't seen it. I haven't slowed it down to that point. Yeah, I'm with you, Mark. 10 feet, even without using. Uh, but I'm in. I was law enforcement trained. Although cops aren't the best shooters, but certain officers and certain job titles, we were better shooters. And I was a trained sniper and with a long gun, and I shoot my pistol out stream ranges also. But it's the accuracy that he showed was not anything impressive. Anna says a picture of him smiling was taken at a hostel where a female was flirting with him and asked him to lower the face covering. Okay. Todd says, does this mean that Mrs. Steve has to dress up like the CEO or the hitman this weekend? No, Mrs. Steve's in Florida taking care of the grandkids. Um, but I, I most certainly am not going to let Mrs. Steve behind me. Um, No, I do not know at this time if they have found the weapon, but they did. Is that possible? Yes, I don't know because they seem to be looking and know where the gun was purchased from. Um, and how is that? I had heard about being shot in the back, but and then that shot in the calf. So, Anna, Anna says according to a news report within the last hour, they haven't found anything. Thank you for looking that up. I was wondering about that because, like I said, I think that law enforcement has a lot of details and a lot of information, and probably have an idea of where they're heading to. These fugitive units, those type of individuals that work on those fugitive details, and our government has the ability, once they're placed on a trail, to look at digital footprints and track people through so many ways now. You know, it's truly, we are in a world of that we leave a digital footprint, either through our purchases, our movements, and we're there. But anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all being here tonight. And if y'all have any suggestions or for future shows, absolutely send me a comment, email, or text message. I appreciate it. But appreciate everybody being here tonight. Appreciate all the support. Without y'all's support, we couldn't do what we do with the foundation side of the True Crime Web, going out and helping these cold case families. But most certainly appreciate everybody being here tonight. I'll probably be on the road Saturday and be doing a member show Sunday night. But y'all stay safe out there, and we'll see you guys soon. Get something here. There we go. Thank you, guys. Bye.